Welcome back, everyone. We're a week away from set two, and that means we got to get right into it. There's not a whole lot to talk about for the existing prices, but let's get some of those predictions out there. So first off, let's talk about set one things that may change. And even before that, just a quick note, there's really not much change. I'm going to put the numbers up there so you can see what's going on. Minor fluctuations up or down across the board, and that's about it. With that out of the way, let's talk about set one things that are going to possibly change in value, especially early on. Initially, my first thing that I would point out is the double aspect cards. We're talking aggression, command, cunning, and vigilance. All of those have decks that perform well in set one and likely are going to get upgrades and upgraded in set two, and therefore are not likely to go away. And of course, vigilance and some of the others as well have shown up in other builds, even if they aren't mono aspect, whatever they happen to be. So I don't anticipate that they're going to go away. And with Wu posting that aggro Han list recently on YouTube and people talking about aggro mono red Sabine, obviously aggro Sabine, the upgrades to Boba, mono Palpatine, obviously various flavors of mono blue. There's tons of stuff that could utilize these. So I expect those to start creeping back up as we move forward in set two and as things stabilize. Now, beyond that, Boba Fett and Darth Vader are not going to go away, even though we did get Maul. It's kind of the Wish.com or we got Vader from Temu, or no, we're not going to stop at McDonald's. We have Darth Vader at home sort of thing, whatever meme of choice you want to use. But Vader is still going to be important for a variety of decks. If you can pick them up, are they going to go back to $100? Probably not, but that's going to depend on how much of a big influx we get and how much FOMO there is with set two. If we get a bunch of new players coming in and they go, this game is great, because it is, they want to get Vader suddenly, that could cause the price to spike back up. Boba, obviously, Boba is going to be in Boba decks. That's saying Boba a lot in that sentence. It's also going to have Bounty Hunter synergy, so you could see it outside of Boba shells, whether it's actually in Cad Bane, it could be in Jabba lists, whatever happens to want to leverage the Bounty Hunter trait or Underworld, something like that. Beyond that, there are a few others that could pop up here or there, but overall, don't expect all of your set one legendaries or even rares to bottom out. Things like K2SO still going to be exceptionally important, which kind of segues into set two. Now, looking at the legendaries from set two, well, first of all, we do have some pre-order pricing. You can see it on TCG Player. Obviously, you can see people on eBay and stuff like that. It's kind of all over the place, and many of them are still placeholders being a week out. Look, there's a bunch of cards listed for like $1,000 that are clearly not going to be $1,000. So, I mean, maybe one person will make a sale for that, but I'm not banking on it. So, as far as things that are actually going to be important early on, you have your more obvious things like Poe. That is going to show up in every red X, whether it's mono red or red green or red whatever, aggressive hero deck. That's probably the Boba Fett, as in Boba Fett Disintegrator, of this set. It is going to be one of, if not the most expensive legendary early on. The most expensive one I kind of anticipate to be the Darksaber, but I will say, based on my initial testing, I could see it being only a single copy in Sabine decks. Maybe Mando, if Mando ever becomes a thing, but I'm not super impressed with Mando just yet. So the point is that I kind of expect that to go down, and Poe probably to swap places, but I'll be honest, I'm not sure if either of those are going to hit $100. I could see them creeping up to $60, $70, especially if we get an organized play announcement. As people, if you show up on site at Gen Con, yeah, you're probably paying an enormous, exorbitant fee for having it on site, that sort of thing. Over the long haul, hopefully stabilizes. Allegedly, they're getting more product into people's hands for set two. We'll see what actually happens, because we've heard that before. Now, beyond that, Supreme Leader Snoke, actually something that I could see being multiple copies of in the decks that want it, and there's probably going to be 2 to 3 control decks, so I could see that easily being in the $30 to $40 range kind of thing. All of these are likely, everything's going to be inflated at the start, of course, so if you can wait, you probably want to wait, unless you are confident that you're getting a deal on something like the Poes that you're expecting to go up over the long haul. or at least in comparison to what you're going to be getting them for. Other popular things that I've seen around Krayt Dragons, I don't know about this one as far as it's definitely powerful, but is it going to command $40, $45, $50 or more? It probably shouldn't long term, just because the decks that want it, I guess, will need it. Say you're playing Jabba Red ramp sort of thing. But beyond that, I don't know how many quantity-wise decks are going to be looking at Krayt Dragon as a must-have. Other than that, there's a lot of legendaries that are definitely going to catch people's eyes. There's a lot of splashy things, so like Endless Legions, which ultimately may not, or is likely not to see a ton of competitive play. But it's certainly going to grab the attention of people and therefore maybe keep its price afloat on top of it being a legendary. And there's several things that kind of fall into that category. Now, as far as the rares go, I think we go from Poe directly to Wrecker. Wrecker, I thank God they didn't make this a legendary, because this thing would have probably been a Vader. This is also going to pair along with Poe, and if you had to get both to try and play your red-based aggro decks in set 2, would have been a nightmare for your wallet, but at least Wrecker is in fact a rare, meaning that it'll be a little bit easier to get. But Wrecker is crucial, and I wouldn't be surprised that this pushes up as far as costs go for a while, maybe comes back down, and it's going to settle in the K2 range where, yeah, you need them if you're playing this deck, but it's also not a $40 rare or something like that. Other than that, there's a number of rares that I could see people being super hyped about that will drop off. Things like Boba Fett's armor, Jango Fett, and maybe Palpatine's return. Although that I kind of expect to be a tier 2 deck where you have to respect it and it could take over a game. I don't think the dedicated Reanimator plan is necessarily going to be there yet. It might, but I could definitely see it in other decks as just, this is quote unquote copies 4, 5, and 6 of whatever important thing I want it to be whenever I need it to be. And also, by the way, it gives me a discount essentially on whatever it is. So I could definitely see these showing up in decks. It just may not be the way most people are thinking about it initially. Now, beyond that, things that I think will maintain their price or maybe even go up, Hotshot DL44 Blaster. I think a lot of decks are going to want that. I kind of expect it to be in the $8 to $10 range, especially early on, maybe move up and then come back down kind of thing as people are realizing, oh, hey, aggro is pretty strong right now, which it does appear to be. And then Cobb Vanth is another one that could be in the K2 range where if you're playing green, you run this guy. Maybe, because I say that and my Sabine list right now is not running him. So we'll have to see how this guy plays out, but he presents a lot of potential value. I'm just not exactly sure where his home is yet because we're still figuring out what all the decks are, and there's a lot of new toys to play with. So those are just some quick thoughts about set 2. I talked about it on stream last week, and by the time this goes live, it'll also be yesterday's stream on my Twitch channel, link in the description, that there's a whole lot of things to test. There's a whole lot of things that I want to go through. There's ideas that I feel like I'm getting latched onto that are ultimately proving to not be that strong, and I kind of need to put them down so I can focus on the things that are quite clearly better. But that's the problem with a new set. All the new toys are very enticing. But that's going to do it for this time. So let me know down in the comments what you think are going to be the most expensive cards in set 2, what ones are going to hold value, what ones are going to shoot up and then crash, and then what you're trying to test out, because there's a lot of cool ideas presented in this set. But that's going to do it for this time. So as always, everybody, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Tune in next time for more Random's Thoughts.